What's going on, everyone? My name is Clayton. I'm a junior at the University of Houston studying economics. I've been learning about poker for a little over a year now, but I've only recently started logging my sessions in late February. I've logged about 210 hours and I've had a profit of $820, which is nowhere where I want to be, but we'll get there. That's also not including the $700 to $600 heater I had 2 weeks before that, so I guess it's not fair to down myself like that. So if you want to combine that number, I've made a little over $8,400 this year, but due to unemployment and 2 totaled cars, I've had to take a break so I can comfortably play in 1-3. I've been seriously contemplating starting a vlog for a while now, so to be able to do this right now is very exciting for me, and I hope y'all share the same energy. I normally play out Spades Poker House out in Webster, Texas, but a lot of the regulars there know my game, know how aggressive I am, and they've adapted by either being a lot trappier with me or 4-betting me with ace-jack offsuit 3 different times, 3 different people, and they showed me every single time. So yeah, we're going to be going to play at 52 Social now out in Houston, Texas. I played there about 10 to 15 times. I actually had my biggest cash out there, bought it for $1,000, cash out with $3,235. Yeah, I normally buy in for $1,000 in 1-3, but today I only have $1,000 and I won't have any money to, put in another bullet after that. So I want to be able to get enough content out for y'all. So I'm going to be buying it for $500, more than likely, depending on the table, depending on the chip sizes there. But I really want to buy it for $500 so I can have a full bullet behind. But yeah, I'm really excited to start doing this and to take you along my poker journey. But that's enough talking for me. Let's go let the chips talk. So we sit down at a 1-3 table for 500 plus 20 in tip chips. First hand we pick up is ace-8 of clubs under the gun plus 2. Under the gun limps and I raise it up to 20. Folds around to under the gun who flats. Heads up to a flop that comes out 5 of diamonds, 8 of diamonds, 10 of clubs. Under the gun checks, I bet 15 and a 45 with middle pair, top kicker, and backdoor clubs. Under the gun calls a 15 and we go to a turn, which is the 9 of clubs. Under the gun tanks here for a little bit and then decides to lead for 45. So it's an interesting spot, but not an uncommon one. The types of hands I would expect this from would be top pairs who want to deny equity on wet boards like this, or a combo draw who wants to take the betting lead. But with the nut flush draw, I opt to call. River comes out the beautiful 8 of hearts, giving us trips on our first hand. Under the gun leads for 60, and all those hands like 6-7, Queen Jack, and Jack 7 all got there on the turn. I wouldn't expect him to have a lot of those combinations there from flatting under the gun and then leading the turn. So I end up raising a 150 to get max value, but instead I get a snap fold. We scoop 140 in profit, and always nice to start a session off with the win. Next hand we pick up is King Jack of spades in the low jack. Folds around to me and I open to 15. The cutoff, button, and big blind all call. And we go 4-way to a flop of 10 of spades, 8 of diamonds, 10 of clubs. Multi-way on a paired board with 2 overs, backdoor flush, and straight draw. I see bet a third pot, which is $20, with the plan to barrel on turns that I pick up equity on, such as any over or spade. The cutoff calls, button folds, and then big blind calls. Turn is a 3 of diamonds, not helping us at all, and I decide to give up and check. And the cutoff checks as well. River is a deuce of hearts, checks around, and the cutoff takes it with pocket 4s. There's a button straddle in this one. Warner the gun plus 1 with king 10 of hearts. Big blind calls, and I didn't come here to fold suited broadways in early position, so I open to 20. Folds around to the button who calls. Big blind folds, and we dueled out to a flop of king of spades, jack of spades, 8 of clubs. I see bet $25, and the button folds. This time we look down at ace of diamonds, king of clubs, and under the gun plus 1. Under the gun opens to 15 with a starting stack of 145. As I'm about to 3-bet, the low jack starts to reach for what looks like raising chips before he realizes it's still my turn. I 3-bet to 60 with the intention of calling a shove from the short stack. It folds around to him and he decides to flat. He's been very selective with his hands and careful with his money, so my read on the situation is that he has some sort of pocket pair that would like to see a safe board before getting his stack in. He has 85 behind, and we go heads up to a flop of 7 of hearts, 10 of hearts, 7 of diamonds. He checks to me, as I'd expect him to do with almost his entire range. If I bet here, I would have to call a jam, so I decided to check back and see a turn, which is 8 of hearts. He rips it all in for 85, and there's definitely bluffs in his range here, but with only a bluff catcher against the tightest opponent and no hearts, I decided to save my 85 and fold. This is definitely an interesting spot, and I'd like to hear what y'all think about how I played it. Our stack is now down to 480 as we look down at Jack 10 of hearts in the big blind. There's a button straddle with arguably my favorite hand. I opened at 20. Low Jack calls and cut off 3 bets to 95. He's pretty deep and seems really confident. I couldn't really see how much he raised to, so I asked the dealer, but the villain ended up answering instead, which is interesting to note. If I was deeper, I would definitely consider 4-betting, especially out of position. But with only 160 big blinds with such a playable hand post, I decided to flat. Low Jack folds and we go heads up to a flop that comes out Ace of Hearts, King of Hearts, 9 of Hearts. I do my best not to burst out laughing as I check it to him, and he donates me a crisp $100. I call and the pot is now 415 going to the turn. With only 286 behind, I plan on jamming any non-heart turn because it's a big enough bet to have a lot of semi-bluffs in, such as any hand containing a queen or jack of hearts. Monotone boards are difficult to navigate in general, especially in 3-bet pots. So the turn comes out a queen of spades and I snap jam all in. The cutoff is visibly uncomfortable, and as I sit here with a second nuts, watching him agonize over what to do, I'm reminded why I play poker in the first place, to deal maximum pain. He asks me how many times I want to run it. I signal twice and he ends up calling. I'm praying for the board not to pair. First river is a 5 of hearts, and second is an 8 of spades. We scoop and double up to 960. This time we pick up pocket 8s in the big blind. Hijack, who's an older man, raises to 15. I haven't seen him raise pre yet, and I expect him to be pretty strong here. With that said, I can't just flat here, so I 3-bet to 35. He calls, and the flop comes out deuce of hearts, jack of spades, 10 of clubs. I c-bet my entire range here, and he flats. Turn is a 7 of spades. I now have a gutter to go with my pair, which I feel is no good. So I check it to him, which in hindsight, I feel like I should have continued here, as I pick up equity to keep the betting lead. But he bets 36, and I call. Like I said, looking back, if I'm going to check call here, I might as well lead, but the river comes a jack of clubs. I check and he checks it back. We show pocket 8s and he shows ace 10 off. I feel like a sucker giving him $100 with third pair, but don't worry, old baller, I'll be back. We're in the hijack for this one, and there's a button straddle. 3 people call the straddle, and action's now on the low jack. He's a young guy like myself who just recently sat down for about 3K. And he's been going from table to table, stack watching people, and trying to find the most money, but ends up staying at ours. There's $25 in the pot as he squeezes it up to 42. We look down at king of spades, queen of clubs with about 860 behind. I consider 3-betting as I expect him to be towards the bottom of his range here given the squeeze, but we're in position against him and it's offsuit, so I decided to flat. Button flats and under the gun plus 2 flats. There's 180 in the pot as we go 4-way to a flop of king of hearts, jack of diamonds, 6 of clubs. Under the gun plus 2 checks. Low Jack C bets $100, and we have an easy just call here. Everyone else folds, and we go heads up to a turn that comes out the 4 of hearts. I notice him eyeing my stack, and I'm a nice guy, so I count my chips out for him. He barrels for 290 into 380, and he didn't take a lot of time to think about a bet sizing, so that makes me lean towards believing this is just a barrel. A lot of times with aggressive opponents like this, you'll see a reasonable C bet on a flop, and then size up on the turn if there's resistance. With this board texture, there's very few combinations of value hands that he could have, such as pocket kings, where there's only one combo of, and if he did have that, he pretty much has the board covered and probably wouldn't take this line. I don't believe aces as a single pair would take this line as well. So the types of hands I'm putting him on here are lower suited connectors that picked up equity on the turn, whether it be straight or flush draws, middle pocket pairs that honestly might check back turn, so that might not even be in his range, or pocket jacks that have me crushed. I also don't think ace king would be taking this line because it's hard to get value out of hands that aren't beating you with this sizing. I try to get some live reads off of him for some extra info by counting out my chips and watching his eyes. His eyes don't move as I play with my chips, but as soon as I take the card protector off, his eyes dart to my cards. And this is a live tell I've picked up on that's helped me in the past. In big spots like this, it's important to be conscious of your reactions. That's also very hard as we are reactive creatures at our core. Basically what I've noticed is if the desired outcome is about to be met, either as a fold or a call, the player's eyes will lock onto the action subconsciously. All things considered, I end up making the call with the plan to get to showdown as cheap as possible. River comes in 8 of hearts, and he starts to eye my sack again. So, like the nice guy I am, I count it out for him. River connects with the range I put him on here, so at this point, I'm probably going to shit myself if he jams. Thankfully, he clicks the check button, and I snap check it back and show king queen. He mucks, and we scoop almost a $1,000 pot. Under the gun starts his hand off with a flat, folds around to us, and we look down at a cute little suited connector in the cutoff. I open a 15, and the big blind and under the gun both call. 3-way to a flop, that comes out 7 of diamonds, 5 of hearts, 8 of diamonds. Checks around to me, and I try not to cream my pants as I see bet 20 and a 45 with a pair, flush draw, gutter ball, and straight flush draw. They both call. Turn comes down to 3 of hearts. Big blind checks. Under the gun just starts randomly clicking buttons and bets 20. I'm not sure what to make of this, so I call, see what develops. And the big blind also calls. With the big blind calling, I'm starting to think my third pair is no good, and as river falls down to deuce of hearts. Both players checked me, and with 165 in the pot, I don't want to get to showdown here with just a 5. So I go for it. I bet 120. Both players fold, and I can't help but let the cream out now that my bluff gets through.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's all those elements.
We are under the gun +2 here. Under the gun opens a 15. We have jack 9 of clubs and decide flat. There's 3 other callers, and we go 5-way to a flop of jack of hearts, queen of spades, 9 of hearts. Small blind checks. Under the gun C bets 40 into 75. With 2 pair on such a wet board and 3 others left to act, I raise it up to 110. I probably should have gone larger here, but it falls around to the small blind who cold calls. So at this point, he might as well flip his flush draw over. Under the gun calls as well, and we go 3-way to a 3 of hearts turn. It checks to me, and I don't take the trap and check it back. River comes out an 8 of diamonds, so now any flush or 10 has me beat. Checks around to me, and I check it back. I'm waiting for the small blind to show his flush while under the gun shows king queen offsuit. Small blind still hasn't showed, so I show my 2 pair, and small blind finally shows ace deuce of hearts for the nuts. Thanks for the slow roll, and I'm glad you got max value. Last hand we look down at is pocket kings in the cutoff. 2 limps to me, and I raise it up to 20. Old baller in the big blind calls, and everyone else folds. Heads up to a flop that comes out the 9 of spades, 6 of clubs, and 5 of spades. He checked in the dark, and I see bet 25. He calls. Turn comes out a 4 of spades, and he decides to lead here for 40. I just flat. He checks in the dark again for the river, which is a 6 of hearts. I've seen him go for value on the turn with second pair already, so I want to choose a bet sizing that can encompass a lot of weak pairs, and I land on 50. He calls and shows ace-9 for top. We definitely could have sized up here, but happy to take it down. I rack up and clock out for the day. So we had a pretty solid session for our first vlog. In for 500, out for 1450, profit of $950. Wasn't really put into a lot of tough spots. Spots that I were put into, felt like I made the right decision each time. Cards pretty much displayed themselves, naturally got my value. One of the big benefits I actually see from putting my sessions out there is for y'all to analyze a lot of these spots and tell me what I should have done different, where I could have got more value, just, the whole 9 yards of my play. I'm going to be trying to get my next vlog out there ASAP. I actually start my new job tomorrow, so I won't have as much time, but I'll be working on it. Yeah, so let me know what you think about this video. Putting together and get my first video out there was taking a lot of work and a lot of confidence for myself. So if you like what you saw, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Be easy.